Wicked has just been released in theatres. It's a film adaptation of one of the most popular musical stage shows of all time, also called Wicked. The story of Wicked is part of the same universe most people will be familiar with from the film The Wizard of Oz, which came out in 1939. However, the Oz stories stretch across 14 original books, starting from the very beginning of the 1900s, and many other installments. In The Wizard of Oz, the film, our protagonist Dorothy is whisked away to the land of Oz by a storm. This land is governed by a mysterious wizard and 4 witches: the Good Witch of the North, the Good Witch of the South, the Wicked Witch of the East, and the Wicked Witch of the West.
They got a real issue with that power with the horizontal, I guess.
Yeah.
Wicked East and West.
You best stay.
North and South is fine.
Where's the divide? Do you reckon it moves around like a clock? Like,
yeah, maybe they all shift
when they go to war. Like.
Maybe it's a daytime, nighttime thing.
Well, anyway.
That was such shit chat. Sorry, I can only apologise for that shit chat. Carry on, Jabbo. I'm interested in this, by the way. I'm glad that you're explaining this to me.
Do a bit of an explanation.
Yeah,
I thought it might be quite.
Do you want me to chime in a bit? I'm finding this very interesting.
I'll probably cut most of it anyway.
No, don't you dare. Don't you dare.
Beyond their relevance to the film's narrative, we learn very little about those key characters in the Land of Oz. Wicked was written to explore how these witches became who they are and the mysterious relationships that they are told to have held in the past. The film stars Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo and was directed by Jon M, the same person who made In the Heights with Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Very nice.
It had a whopping budget of $145 million.
Oh, jeez.
But has grossed $178 million in its opening weekend globally, making it on track for one of the biggest films of the year.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been to see this film and assess the hype.
We have. We've both watched a film.
Believe it or not.
Thank you for those budget numbers, by the way. I liked it.
It's an interesting one. They seem to be doing well. The marketing run on this is bananas.
But will we think it's any good? Will the Late Night Machine believe it's good?
Dictate where the box office goes from now on. You'd expect.
Is it about to tank? To fall off a cliff?
When this makes it online in like 3 weeks. So we're going to start by each contributing our own rating out of 10, just in terms of how enjoyable this film was to watch. This is supposed to be absolutely subjective and not an assessment of how good the film is, just how much fun we had.
Well explained.
However, by the end of this discussion, we will have agreed on a final score.
Late night score.
That summarizes this film. Freddie, are you ready?
Freddie is ready.
So am I.
All right, whose go is it?
I'm sure I've counted you in a couple of times.
Shall I count you in?
All right.
So, Jumbo score for Wicked, the Oswardian extravaganza. I should really write some for these.
It's
supercalifragilistic. All right, out of 10, 3, 2, 1.
7.0.
8.2.
Wow, okay.
I had a great time.
Yeah, you enjoyed it, did you?
I got to say.
It was a good film, wasn't it?
It was good, yeah. There was a point in it where I came to the realisation that I was like, I bloody love musicals, me. I just can't get away from it. I can't run. I can't hide from it. I am an unapologetic musical lover.
For those interested, we have been in some musicals. We've obviously watched a lot of them together. You've shown me pretty much all of them. Yeah. Musicals aren't like something we've just watched for Wicked. We've been watching and participating in these things for.
We've done Sound of Music. We've done a musical, this is this going to be the second we've done. You don't worry about checking it. I reckon it is. And there was a point. All right, non-spoilers for anyone going forward. I felt at first, as someone who hadn't seen Wicked before, a self-proclaimed musical lover who hadn't seen Wicked before, I never expected it to be the sort of thing that I'd like, because some of the more famous songs, well, the one really famous song that I knew of it, I was never the biggest fan of, and I didn't think I'd like the concept. So I never went out of my way to watch it.
Yeah, okay.
So the most famous song is Defying Gravity.
It is, yeah.
I knew of that song.
I was always surprised that you hadn't watched Wicked, because it is one of the big ones.
It's one of the biggest that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Maybe the biggest.
Because you've seen Les Mis.
I've seen most of the big musicals.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of the songs from a lot of others anyway. But this one was one I'd never had any interest in watching. And the opening number came on, and it's one that's kind of Ariana Grande heavy.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
and I wasn't enjoying it very much.
Yeah, I
I
can
thought,
agree with that.
This one might be a tough watch. But there was a certain point after a few songs, I was like, oh, I'm quite enjoying this. And there was a point where I was like, I bloody love this. I'm enjoying this so much.
Nice. What did you think of Cynthia and Ariana? What do you think of their
I thought
performances?
they were both great. I thought Ariana at first, so her singing style is, she doesn't enunciate quite as well as she could.
Okay.
And I find that although her part is quite taxing on the ears anyway, it's a lot of runs and it's very high pitch. I still didn't think her tone was particularly my cup of tea. Whereas Cynthia, from the off, particularly the acting of her, I thought she's carrying off her character, who supposedly doesn't give a fuck about the fact that she's green and people don't like her and never have liked her. I thought she carried that amazingly well.
Okay.
And I was really enjoying her performance more than I thought I would. One of the few things I'd seen about Wicked ahead of watching it was that she got up in arms about someone making a fan picture. Have you heard about this?
No.
So have you ever seen the original poster for Wicked?
No. Are you talking stage show or film?
For the stage show. So it's very similar to what's in the film, but instead under the black in the picture itself, it's the the good witch, Ariana's character as a witch in white gown, whispering into Cynthia's character, the wicked witch, the green witch.
It rings a bell. I feel like
she's whispering into her, and then she's the Cynthia's character, the wicked witch, has her like brim down, and she's got the rouge lipstick,
bit of a smile,
a bit of a smirk playing. And the new picture, which you've got up there, it's showing her eyes. You can see that there.
The one of her actual. So you got, for those listening,
so Elphaba is her name.
Elphaba, the evil witch, she's facing straight at the camera, close up, and then you've got Glinda whispering in her ear, as if she was maybe whispering some sort of secret plot. Like it looks kind of clandestine sort of thing they're doing. And
exactly.
They've done with the actors an exact representation of that.
But it's almost the same. It's clearly heavily influenced, but they are not showing Elphaba's eyes in the original, but they are in this one.
Yes.
And also Elphaba has more of a smirk in the original poster with red lipstick.
Those
are the only real differences. So someone made a fan version, like with AI and with Photoshop, of the original. So all they really did to change it was, I think, make Glinda's character a bit more white dress, white top hat, and then cover Elphaba's eyes and give her red lipstick and with a smirk. Yeah. That was it. That was it. It was just to kind of, you'd have thought so. It's just like, oh, this is something I love and I'm going to make it in this version. And Cynthia was not particularly happy about that.
All right.
And she released a tweet, or she made a statement saying like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen because it takes away my face, and you shouldn't be taking away. This is why we made it, so you could see into my eyes. And it didn't go down very well because it was clearly like a fan had tried to make something that they
do. Yeah.
So going into this, I thought I probably wouldn't like her. Just out of one interaction, the only thing I knew from was that. And I got to say, she was incredible. I mean, I thought she was absolutely amazing in this.
Yeah, I'd say my biggest gripe probably was quite closely related to your concern that I felt. I don't think that she was necessarily bad at acting. I just didn't like her very much or at all. I actually kind of prepared a bit of an explanation because I was really trying to figure it out. There are a couple of things that I love about this movie a lot. I love the musical side of it, all the bits they've taken. So I love the songs.
You like the songs?
And it's not often I'll listen for a musical and the first time I'll enjoy the songs. And I was like, most of these songs I'm really enjoying, which is quite unusual. And obviously the choreography and all that is top tier stuff. I was really impressed by the musical side of it. For me, the problem I had really was the storytelling.
Okay.
So the premise is really cool. I like the whole, you've got this wicked witch that's portrayed as this bad guy, and you've got these characters from this beloved film. How do we get to where we are, and how did we get into this position? I love that. But the answer that they came up with was, let's glorify Elphaba, the young wicked witch of the West, as this absolute perfect but complete victim of her environment. Like really, really late on, I think. Now, like I said, it's not in itself a huge problem. I don't mind that you've done that, although I don't have a ton of respect for it. The problem was how thick they laid it on, how on the nose it was.
Yeah, okay.
And it basically caused two quite serious but very specific consequences. The first one being I didn't like the characters very much. Anyone other than Elphaba felt like they literally only had one purpose, which was to make Elphaba this perfect victim of her environment. And so they were like caricaturishly, just bizarrely nasty to her. And most of them were, and very unlikable characters. And Glinda was also just like weirdly shallow a lot of the time. Like there were a lot of moments where I was like, I just don't really like Glinda very much, and I don't like any of the other characters. And then Elphaba, I was more forgiving of because there were moments where it really worked. Yeah. But because the character was being portrayed as this complete victim of her environment, and she was told to kind of carry this air of like, I'm not going to let it get to me, it kind of came across to me as like this very kind of moral superiority, patronizing distaste for everybody around her. And I just constantly didn't feel like she liked me very much. And I just didn't really like her whole presence. And the only moments of vulnerability that they gave her, which is really where you can make these characters really likable. Like it's good to have that shell, but they need to have great vulnerable moments. It really felt like I was being force fed it a little bit. And so it's, I think that there were moments where Elphaba and Glinda were really likable, but I think that broadly, I just didn't like them or any of the other characters very much because of this objective of how are we going to make her the Wicked Witch of the West? Well, just everybody's going to be a colossal knobhead to her from the day she's born, and she's going to be this perfect person who just is so much better than everyone else. And I was just like, it boiled down to just me not liking them very much. And the second specific issue was they were so focused on making me feel sorry for her that the pacing felt really sluggish. Okay. So it's 2 hours 40 for a part one. And the first 90 minutes felt like they were so focused on this objective, this sort of thematic objective, that I never really knew what I was waiting around for. Like I never really knew why I was there. And I got like a long way into the movie and I was like, what's going on here, guys? Like I'm bored. Like give us something that we're really desperately trying to do. And it felt like it was just because they were so set on making Elphaba this absolute victim that they just kind of forgot to tell a bit of a story. So I don't mind them doing it, but just make the point once and then tell me a story rather than spend 90 minutes just making me feel sorry for this like perfect person.
Yeah, it didn't affect me as much as that. I got to say, I felt like within the first 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, I wasn't enjoying the film that much in the first 10, 15 minutes. I got to a point where I was thinking, all right, I'm not really liking the songs in this. And I have the same hang-ups as you do about the character. Whereas it's going to be all woe is me.
Yeah,
but I'm cool.
You said a similar thing about Joker where you were like, I don't like it when films and Taxi Driver, where films will just like, everything is wrong in my world and I'm the most suffered person ever to exist.
But I didn't feel like it was like that. I thought within the first like half an hour, let's say, things started going her way. Like she was good. Well, I can't spoil anything yet. But I felt like there was the first portion of the film, you got a very shallow character exploration where you thought, is there going to be any nuance here? And I felt that they delivered nuance well, not just through her songs, but through her interactions with people. And they gave her nuanced relationships. They didn't just have everything go against her for the sake of saying this is just going to make you're going to have to like this because it's the most depressing thing you've seen, which is how I feel about something like The Joker.
Yeah.
So, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree. They had moments where I think that they did redeem her, but because of the overall objective, generally the demeanor, every other character suffered from the objective of they were generally like, yeah, there was kind of sometimes moments of nuance, but broadly it was all serving the same purpose, which is you have to like this Elphaba. She is this perfect victim. And then for so they introduced these moments of nuance, but they didn't fully redeem it for me. That was the thing. I left with a general feeling of like, I don't really like any of the characters very much. Elphaba had some moments where the cool, I don't give a fuck really worked. And I really liked it. But I just felt like in the 2 hours, 40 minutes, that could have been used more tastefully rather than what came across to me as almost sanctimonious, the way she carried herself.
Yeah, so I could see... I think that what saved me in it was that I started really liking the songs. And then for me, it was more of a mentality. Like, I would have been more glass half empty, like I was for Gladiator 2. We did Gladiator 2, and all of the issues I had with it were compounded by the fact that I felt so... I was so...
insulted almost, offended by it. It was
like... I
this
felt
thing
like
shouldn't exist.
Yeah, this is against my personal ethos that they have made something like this. And it's not just a cash grab, it's one that's been made 24 years later. With this, I started to really enjoy the musical aspect, and it reminded me of the fact that I bloody love musicals. And I think that because of that, I viewed the positives of it more, and I definitely wasn't seeing it through that lens of they are not doing enough to drive the character's arc here. And genuinely, I don't think it was just the lens through which I saw it that affected me there. I think that they did actually ease off. And there's one thing in particular, which is a minor spoiler, but really you won't need to worry about this at all. They had something in it which for me can be a bit of a red flag for my personal taste, which is we're going to pander to the fact that we've got horrible white men. Yeah. Very early on, like one of the figures in the film is a white bloke who is pretty detestable. Yeah. And I thought, is it going to be like this? And they completely veered off that. And I found myself thinking, okay.
Usually if there was a detestable group, what they did was they would fill it with white people and then they put like a couple of minorities in the back of the group. I noticed them doing that hell of a lot.
Yeah, I think though specifically I was more concerned that it would be a case of this is going to really pander for something that people don't actually care that much about anymore. They just pretend they do care. But realistically it was just a good film. From about 10, 20 maybe minutes in, it was a good film. And then I do agree about the pacing.
I was going to ask,
2 hours 40. It got to a point where I was really, really enjoying the songs. I was swept up in it, and I thought this might end soon, and I'll be upset. And I was like, I can't believe I could watch an hour more of this. Yeah. And there probably was about an hour left, and I was like, maybe an hour was a bit too much in this case because the third act it started to really drag, but I still enjoyed it. It didn't detract loads from me. I probably would have given it higher. That's what I'm saying.
Wow,
I was very pleasantly surprised by it. Reminded me of the musicals that I love. And then I don't think they needed to... The split that they had was obviously because they wanted to get some of the big songs in this film. And those songs happen...
Well, I think that the intermission happens at the same point the films and the original stage show. So
they probably just added a bit too much into this because the musical version is not 2 hours 40 and then an intermission, then another hour and a half or whatever. We'll get 2 hours, I imagine. It will be instead about an hour and a half and then an hour,
which I think is what this really could have been. Like, I do think it. I do want to be clear. Like that. My point that I was making back then was more like of all of the issues that I had, they pretty much just came from their absolute dead set sights on this thematic objective that caused a few issues. Namely, didn't love the characters that much, and it went on a bit long. But that's basically it. And I'm totally with you on the rest of it. I think that the musical elements were incredible. But I also thought the directing was really, really good. Like, I really enjoyed the practical sets.
I found it very funny.
Yeah. But Ariana Grande is quite funny.
I thought Ariana, and that was what turned it for me from her performance.
Yeah.
I was quite enjoying Cynthia's performance throughout, really. And Ariana Grande, not so much.
Okay.
And then I really did find she's being quite funny here.
She had a couple of good, she's good with timing, isn't she?
She's making me laugh the most, I think. She played the ditzy role very, very well and had some genuinely funny moments.
Funny comments here
Funny
and there.
comments, funny movements. She's physical comedy was really good as well.
Quick comment on colour. I really like the whole absolute vision on colour where you just go, this is what this film's colours are going to be.
Colour, mate,
I love my colour. And this was one where they clearly gone for the pink and the green. And I thought that the way it was presented in the sets was really fun, and I really liked that. The one comment I would have on the colour that was a bit strange was, if you compare it to something like Barbie, which is obviously where they've got a little bit of inspiration from in terms of having these practical sets and these bright, vibrant colours, what you do afterwards is you will color grade it. So you might put a filter on a photo before or something like that, and it changes the kind of feel of the photo. And what Wicked did was it put a color grading that was almost a little muddy. And I think the objective is to kind of make it feel more real.
Yeah.
But actually, I think that part of the success in Barbie was that where they had the practical sets with the bright, vibrant colors, they lent into it, and it was okay because it is a make-believe world, and so it's kind of like intuitively acceptable.
I completely agree. I noticed it quite a bit in the first scene, and part of my issue with that opening song is I wasn't enjoying the song. I didn't really know if I'd even like the vibe of the story. And also, I thought the color grading was weird. Like, the saturation looked odd.
Yeah.
And all the way throughout, like, they end up going to the Emerald City, which is, again, like, color's a very important part of that whole sequence. And again, it is a bit odd. But it doesn't detract too much from the set pieces. Like, they are still very, very good.
Yeah.
But weirdly, the coloring could be better.
They've got this really vibrant set. They've got these really vibrant sets and outfits, but then put like a kind of drab filter over the top, and it just kind of felt unnecessary. It felt like they could have just lent further into it. And sure, if it's in a bloody, if it's set in the real world, then you're going to have to tone it down a bit. But this is Oz. Like, this is one of the places you can kind of get away with just leaning into it. You don't need to put a dirty filter over it. So, but that's not I want to be clear. I liked the color of this film. I really did. I just thought that maybe I would have maybe made a different decision on the color grading of it. At the end, they'd clearly put so much work into the costumes and the sets and everything else to make it cohesive. And then they just kind of did a U-turn in the last second that just felt a bit weird, but like fine, I guess.
So, all right, favorite song.
Well, this first time I've listened through, so obviously the climax of Defying Gravity, I will remember forever. But if I had to pick another one, the one where it kept using Loathing.
Yeah, what's this feeling?
Loathing.
Yeah, what is this feeling?
That's a good song. No,
yeah,
I
I completely agree, because we were just speaking to Jamie's girlfriend, Faye, who we all watched this one together, didn't we?
We
watched
did.
it together.
Didn't talk about it afterwards.
Apart from Faye, who was clapping. And we were playing it cool with each other, and we were like,
well, maybe I liked it, maybe I hated it.
I literally went straight on the tram and put on Loathing. And you know what I did? I was next to two girls who'd been to Wicked, and I was obviously getting on the tram on my own. Just a 26-year-old bloke, get his phone out, got my headphones in, went to put it on, didn't have Bluetooth put on so I just started playing out loud. Loathing.
Oh, that's brilliant. How long was it on for?
No, it can't have been more than about 5 seconds, but I was like...
Do you reckon they were from the theatre? Because it was like 10...
Yeah, because it was right next to
they'd have understood. Well, on a quick note on that, obviously we mentioned Faye. She's watched the stage show a couple of times. This has been a lifelong... she's always loved the stage show to bits. So... interesting take, somebody who's loved Wicked her whole life, now watching the film adaptation, seal of approval. She absolutely loved it. She said it really brought that magic back. And I think that there's a little bit of, it might be a little bit of the two lead actors, but just generally, it does feel like the people who made this movie kind of did appreciate and love the original Wicked stage show. Like, I think the reason that some of my favorite bits were the musical elements were for the same reason that Faye liked it, is because the people who made it clearly did really like the musical. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, seal of approval from a Wicked fan. Seal of approval from Fred. I enjoyed tons of it, but the thematic elements just made it 2 hours 40 rather than like 1 hour 50, which would have been great.
Yeah.
And also, you know, I think that I could have really liked I could have liked the characters. I didn't have to not like them. That's what kind of makes it a bit frustrating. Sometimes you need a character to be disliked for a narrative to go along. I could have quite liked Glinda, but she just had some moments of absurd shallowness to kind of set up the alphabet.
Yeah,
energy.
it comes with the territory, though. You're talking musicals come from stage shows where there's always the elements of melodrama, and it does. I mean, we're talking about a story which is effectively from the 1900s. Like,
this was written in the 80s, Wicked.
I know, but the actual setting that it's influenced from, or it is supposedly from, and they did not have nuanced characters like that. No, I do not care what you think about the Tin Man and Dorothy. They were pretty shallow. So I completely forgave them for that. And I think I found the charm in their friendship and relationship. I bought into it. Less,
you related to that.
And that makes a lot of stuff forgivable for you.
Definitely.
Still agree though that it didn't need to be as long as it did.
There could have been an improvement made somewhere in that realm. But yeah, so what we'll do is we'll nip out, I reckon.
We'll go we'll do a bit of that. What's the spit? We'll go down the yellow brick.
We might have to go down a yellow brick road
to find the machine.
We'll set off and just find out on the way.
The Emerald City where the machine is housed.
Yeah.
We'll twist some buttons, nobble some buttons.
We'll probably look a bit like Oz, the wizard, not Oz.
Yeah, no.
You'll draw a curtain back and there'll be us two behind it. Fred making noise. Anyway, we'll be back in 5 seconds with a score, unless you're on Spotify.
Take your headphones out your ears because you're about to hear me screaming in with a...
Okay, we're going out. We'll be back in a while. We're back.
What a ride.
I've
got a broomstick up my bum. That's clean.
You did that on the walk back as well. All right, cool. So we've been to the Main Eye Machine.
Yeah, followed the yellow brick road.
Yeah, and we also came back with
a number.
The number for Wicked, the correct number.
The number. Yeah, exactly that.
Wicked 2024. This is part of a ginormous franchise. This is important, a cultural phenomenon.
I'll give you that. Important, yeah, for sure.
7.80 out of 10.
Very high, that.
I thought it was going to come back higher.
I thought it might get in the 8s, but I don't know if it was an 8 film. I gave it an enjoyment score of 8.2.
Yeah.
Thinking it won't get that high.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought, as someone who is, wanting to be a critic of films, I wouldn't have given this an 8.2 in the.
Well, it got 8.2 on IMDb at the minute.
Objectivity.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, but I mean, IMDb is no Main Eye Machine.
It's not going to be correct. Like
it's not going to be
like
bang
us.
on. Now, I think that's a great. It's always the best score. It's the score.
Yeah, I know, and I think that if we had to kind of summarize for those who missed the Main Eye Machine conversation, the side of the singing and the kind of presentation of this thing absolutely nailed. The performance is great.
Yeah.
Perhaps just the screenplay adaptation, the writing,
a bit little long,
was just. Yeah, it was stretched out and it did suffer a bit for that, and it ruined my enjoyment score a little bit but it also obviously tainted the Late Night Machine's opinion a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Not opinion, sorry, facts.
Right. It tainted the fact of the machine marginally.
So if you enjoyed that, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thank you.
Check us out on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can hear what goes on in the Late Night Machine room. And we've also got other segments for you to listen to, which will be on our YouTube channel. Thanks so much.